So we put them in this category, this box. Well, he's a bad guy, right? He ceases to be an other, somebody with whom I can relate, and instead becomes this thing, can be raped or treated horribly. Oh, boy. So dehumanization of the other. Now, back to Jordan's concern. Do people dehumanize themselves? Yeah. Oh, ouch. Breaks my heart, pulls for a lot of compassion for me. How do people dehumanize themselves? Have you seen people tear themselves down, treat themselves like an object, lack compassion for themselves? Yeah, I have too. It's pretty painful to see. So, dehumanization of the self. One of the ways we dehumanize ourselves, again, feel free to disagree, is when we deny our own capacity for evil.
Capacity for what?
Our own capacity for evil. See, human beings have a great deal of potential to hurt, to heal, to judge, to provide succor, to have compassion, levy judgment. All of us have these particular capacities. When we tell ourselves that our actions are good, do you see how that can actually perpetuate great harm? No, I'm a good person. So if I were to go to the city councilman, who very much voted for and promulgated Operation Rio Grande, and said, "Are you a good person?" Guess what they would say? Yes, and here's the thing. They're right. However, you notice they're not also giving themselves credit. They're not always good, right? That our behaviors are complex as human beings. That I may have sympathy, or I may even understand where they're coming from with this particular act, even if I disagree. However, when we delude ourselves and tell ourselves, "Oh, I'm good," that's actually a form of dehumanization. Likewise, when we characterize ourselves as just bad. So working with serial killers in prison, they wouldn't look at me and say, "I'm evil and I deserve to die." Instead, they thought of themselves as pretty good guys. But when I'm working with a young lady who's mutilating herself every night after a single sinful thought, she thinks of herself as a horrible human being. She's dehumanizing herself. Rather than seeing herself as somebody who is complex like the rest of us, somebody who's fully and richly human, with a great deal of possibility for behaving and being. Instead, she forecloses herself. She sees herself in only one particular way, and then harms herself accordingly as an object. Now, not all self-mutilation comes of that, just this particular case. So number 3.
What's number 2?
Number 2 is dehumanization of the self.
Oh.
So one's dehumanization of the other, number 2 is dehumanization of the self. And then number 3 is pretty controversial. As much as the other 2 are, this is even more so. The denial of the interrelatedness of being. What I call the lie of individualism. So some of you have had classes with me before. Thank you for your patience. Individualism teaches us that who is the only person that can make us happy? Yes, only you can make you happy. I have heard that promulgated over pulpits at churches. I'm bad for swearing in church? Holy cow, that lie told at church. Only you can make you happy. Therefore, if you're miserable, whose fault is it? Your own fault, right? Now, don't everybody blame Sylvia. She's lovely.
I don't believe what he's saying.
So if I am suffering, I am the one that made that happen, right? I deserve it. So if I witness somebody else's suffering, whose fault is it? Their own. So if there's a guy starving on the street, wearing no shoes on Center Street in January, whose damn fault is that? I'm morally off the hook. I don't have to do anything for that guy. If he just worked harder, and if he just made himself happy, then he wouldn't be in that predicament today. Oh, one of the beautiful things about individualism is it gives us so much freedom, right? No one can tell me who to marry. Nobody can tell me what work to do. I am my own boss. My morality exists in here. My values exist in here. My thoughts and feelings exist in here. All of that is inside of me. All of my subjective truth is here. What that does is it severs me from everyone else. Yes, now I have this radical freedom. What do I do with it? See the problem? But if only you can make you happy, and you're miserable, this lie tells you that's your fault. One of the really weird things about being a therapist, and some people say, oh, it's just Mormons. No, 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 guys. I've done therapy several different places in the country. LDS, non-LDS, atheist, Buddhist, whatever. I'm not picky. I'll try to help anyone in my own stumbling way. Oftentimes, people feel guilty for suffering, and in order to treat the core cause of suffering, I have to help them deal with the guilt of suffering first. The lie is, huh? Yeah, it doesn't. There are some people who feel guilty for feeling depressed. I'm so sorry I'm such a downer. I'm so sorry you have to give me a ride. I'm so sorry that I'm feeling this way. I'm so sorry for crying.
Or, I have a question, isn't it, wouldn't you say it would be kind of the, for instance, not making certain deadlines or expectations that they feel more guilty about, which kind of reinforces the feeling of guilt on their depression then?
I have no idea. I'm not sure I understand.
So, like, for instance, one of those that are diagnosed as clinically depressed, like a lot of kind of the hardship is like getting out in the mornings and just doing something. And when you have certain tasks and certain, like, for instance, like classes or other obligations or work, you're unable to meet those expectations, and so because of that, it kind of reinforces that guilt of saying like, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm doing that, like, why do I have to feel like this?
I let you down, I'm so sorry, I didn't get that paper handed in, and yeah, where guilt can then compound the depression. What's neat is when you remove guilt, then all you have is depression, and the cycle stops, and you can just deal with the depression. So that's a good point. So, one of the reasons why evil is so compelling is because we all do it, and it makes perfect sense. So there's a philosopher, for those of you interested in the intersections of mental health, theory, and philosophy, Jean-Luc Marion. And one of the things that he presents to us is the logic of evil. Evil is perfectly logical. We like our evil to be irrational, and this is the perfect time for it when we see the Michael Myers and the bloody machete or axe, right? That it's just insensible and chaotic and random. Okay, that can happen, and that is evil. Most evil, though, I don't know that Michael Myers can happen, guys. I'm not making that claim. But there are times when evil just erupts into our lives and it doesn't make any sense. Okay? When somebody intends to do us harm, when we've done nothing to them, it happens. It's rare. Most of the evil, though, that we experience is logical and sensible. And because it's so logical and sensible, it's compelling, and we play along with it. So, first claim. Evil is not characterized by any absurdity, any incoherence, or even necessarily by any injustice. Rather, it is characterized by an immutable logic that reproduces its rigor without end or flaw. That evil reproduces itself. One evil begets another evil, begets another evil. And the people who are begetting the evil, giving birth to new evil, feel justified and entitled to the evil that they're giving birth to, that they're perpetuating. Eye for an eye.